Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Sorry I didn't have one video last week. Just got busy and just didn't have anything really to shoot. So we're back at it today. Today I'm going to go over, I've had a lot of people ask me about building transmissions and what I use, like in the way of like assembly gels, fluid, tools, etc. So I think today's going to be a little short video on what I use, what chemicals I use, why. Also want to mention, this is on the premise that you already have a lot of basic tools: hammers, pry bars, screwdrivers, clip removal tools, a lot of the basics that you should need if you're working on automobiles. Anyways, if you're doing transmissions, you probably have way more than just the basics, so I just wanted to get that out of the way. Disclaimer, this is not the Bible on what to do with transmissions or transmission tools, transmission fluids, etc. This is what I use. This is what works for me. This is what I'm comfortable with. Like I said, this is what works for me. You might have another way of using it. You might have another way of doing it. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But this is how I do it. Alright, the first thing we're going to do is go over fluids, chemicals, etc. So we're going to talk about assembly gels and what I use. I have Lubriguard assembly goo. This one's the firm tack. I also have their blue light tack. I use Transgel Gold, and then the red I actually got because this was supposedly not available at the time, and I ordered this one, and the day after I received this can I got my new can of blue. So obviously you can see I hardly used any red, and I use the blue way more. So what I use them for is this one, which isn't a lot out of it, but this I use for if I really need to hold something in place. Like if I'm putting a valve body face down with check balls in it, I will use this to hold the check balls in. And you can see it's very, very firm, and it's sticky. I mean, it'll very sticky. So use that for check balls if I'm going to have the valve body upside down and they're the metal balls, or if I need to stick a bearing to a surface to slide it down into the case, something along that lines, I will use this one. Now the gold is obviously, this is more like a, you know, think like Vaseline is about what the consistency of this is. And this is a light tack. I mean, it's not like I can't move the jar around, but I use this one if I'm using the plastic check balls. This little thinner is going to break down in the fluid a little bit quicker when you're running the transmission. So if I don't need to use the green, I will use this. This is probably my more common that I use. And then for the blue, I use that mainly for my seals, like lip seals, molded pistons, etc. It's, even though it seems like it's real thick, it's actually real slippery. So it works really well for getting seals to slide where they're supposed to, servos on like the 4L60s, etc. And then the red would be the same as the blue. In my opinion, there's probably differences, but in my opinion, this I would substitute for the blue back and forth, and then the gold and the green have their own purposes, and that's what I use them for. As in for brushes, nothing fancy. Just use like a 1/2 inch, they call it a chip brush. I got a bunch of them off of Amazon, and I'll literally take scissors, cut half of it off, get rid of the real long stringies. So it's like that to apply it. Alright, the next thing is brake parts cleaner, aerosol can or bulk, but this is your best friend when it comes to cleaning a lot of the metal parts. And then have a bucket of it as well in bulk for dunking parts in. Just keep in mind, very flammable, very flammable. Pretty much this setup, but just like this without a lid, is what I lit my garage on fire with. Link up there if you want to check out my fire video where I kind of talk about what happened. But anyways, brake parts cleaner, really good for cleaning pretty much all your metal components. Alright, this here, which this is not its normal location, but you need some kind of parts washer. I mean, I use a water-based solvent. I have this for dunking parts, or throw like bolts and stuff in there. Brushes, Scotch-Brite. But this is actually going to go up here once I get my new wheels, I still haven't got a snap on yet from them being melted from the fire. But that is gonna go up here. That way I can move it around with me, and I can have a little bit of room to put some parts while they're drying. All right, this is primarily for 4L60s, but red 271 thread lock is really what you need to use if you're resealing the input drum or input shaft to the input drum on a 4L60 if it's leaking. Again, it's in a different video where I talk about that, but this is the thread locker that I use to seal that joint up. Alright, for transmission fluid, not for what goes in the vehicle. This is for assembly purposes only, for soaking your clutches, lubricating your bearings, etc. I use a Pennzoil LV. It's good for GM, Ford, Toyota's, imports. It's a good multi-purpose transmission fluid. So soaking clutches, putting a little bit in the transmission, and then putting the OE trans fluid in there, this is not going to hurt anything. So I use this, and then I keep it in a plastic like shoebox style thing, so I can throw my clutches in and let them soak prior to assembly, and I can dunk my bearings, etc. in here instead of pouring it all over and making a mess. So I just keep a lid on it, and then I can get it out, throw clutches in there. Alright, now we're going to talk about tools. We're going to kind of go with the bigger permanent things, then we'll go with hand tools. The first thing you're going to need is some sort of clutch press for setting clutch. Let me see if I can do this without making a lot of noise. So the way this works is you put your drum or whatever in here, and it's got an opening so the shaft can fit through if you got like an input shaft, and then you can actually use this to screw down, and it'll press where you need it to push down on a piston to get a snap ring out. Definitely a must if you're going to do transmissions is a clutch press tool. And if you don't have the ability to get one of these or have a place to mount it like this, they do sell one like this that'll work on most instances. It locks into where the retaining ring will go into, and then you can adjust it and push the pistons down to get your snap ring out. All right, the next one is going to be a bracket or holder, along with, not mentioning you need a good bench. This bench has actually been modified. You might be able to see there's a hole right in the bench, and it goes underneath to a funnel and a container to catch the fluid. But besides that, you'll need, well, I guess you don't need, you can bench build, but I use a holding fixture, just like so. I can hold the trans in it, and then it gives me the ability to position the trans where I want, and then you put a pin in there to lock it. Again, this one isn't required, but it just makes it a heck of a lot easier. Various little tools. I have a little slide hammer set up with the 30 accumulator check ball removal tool, the installer tool. This is a universal pump removal tool. It clamps onto the stator shaft, then you can use that to push the input shaft through so the pump will pull off. This is for the low reverse clutch piston on a 4L60, 4L65s. Wood clamp. I actually use this for putting in a servo so I can get the ring in, kind of make it a one-man job, which in my full-blown assembly video on a 4L60 I will go over that. Little snap ring pliers, like the actual pinned snap ring pliers, something like that. And then I have multiple different size ends, screwdrivers, a file for, again, 4L60s with getting the Prindle switch off. Alright, straight edge for checking like drums or anywhere where a band rides and you need to make sure that thing is flat. You can take, obviously it's got protective ends on it, but take the end off, you can put it on there and make sure you have no bowing in the drum or on the surface. You'll need a set of feeler gauges. I've used straights, I've been using straights, it's kind of a pain in the butt, but you can get ones like this, so when you're doing it and you're dealing with the drum, you can actually get in there a lot easier to get an accurate measurement. But definitely angle feeler gauges. Let's do a set of picks. This is Snap-on, but you can probably go to Harbor Freight. I think they always got their like 99-cent set, but it's got the right angle hook. I call that the dentist tool, and then a stabbing tool. But you need a set of picks. This is a must-have. Is a set of digital calipers. Pittsburgh, Harbor Freight. I know, blah blah blah. But this way you can measure clutch packs, because some clutches and some steels will give you different options on what you order, and this way you can actually measure what you have if available, but measure what you have to make sure you get the correct parts right the first time. You need some kind of seal remover, blowgun for air checking, along with the air compressor. You don't need an 80-gallon air compressor. Not by any means do you need an 80-gallon air compressor. I use this for a lot of other things, obviously, but if you just have a pancake air compressor, you just need something so you can air check your pistons, air check your clutch packs before you assemble it. That way, when you put the transmission together, you know everything's going to work. The last thing you need to do is get it together, get it back in the vehicle, and find out you tore a seal, or you didn't get a lip seal in right, and then you got to tear the whole thing back out and redo it. So you need an air compressor and then the blowgun so you can air check. Alright, and then you need a set of snap ring pliers like these. Have the little knurls in them. And this way you can open up the ring, be able to grab onto it, because not all rings have little holes. These you can actually get into a little groove. I've notched them, made them my own. Not focusing, but anyways, snap ring pliers like that. Next thing I have is a for checking in play. It's just like a bore gauge, like for tolerances, so you can check your in play. Use it on engines as well as transmissions. All right, I leave this one down here and grab it as I need it. But you need some kind of a seal and bushing driver kit. This one has all the different measurements, so you can drive in all your bushings and seals. And finally, by no means required, I have a vacuum test machine, whatever you're going to call it, for testing valve body bores to make sure that they are sealing like they should, to see if you got valve body wear, etc. The last couple I've ended up just putting valve bodies in because it was more cost effective than repairing. But along with this, you would need some kind of I think it's 3 CFM vacuum pump to operate this properly. Alright guys, there we go. I probably forgot something. Don't razz me too bad if there's something you're like, hey, you should need so-and-so, or you should need this. Well, yeah, I probably use it and just didn't think about it at the time. But, so right now I got my 4 T65 apart. There was the input sprag. Let me put this down real quick. So like the top one, that moves that way. This one should ratchet the other way. It won't, and then if you turn around, it's actually split there, sees to that. But I already picked up new Borg Warner units, so we're ready to go there. But anyways, second clutch steels. I guess I showed you that. I'll show you this. These are the that's what's left of the second gear clutch pack. I mean, that's supposed to be a friction. Now it's like something some X-Men guy would use or something to freaking throw and slice your head off with. But I'm still waiting on my rebuild kit to come for this. It's gonna have steels, which I don't know why I got those. But anyways, it don't matter. I'll put them in the extra parts because I'll need them for something else. But it's steels, clutches, shift kit, chains, like everything. And when that stuff comes in, we'll have a video where we start to build it. I keep all my gels over here. Unless I'm using them, I might pop it out here. I got pegboard with all the tools that I talked about. I forgot to mention for like 4L60s, anything that's got a 2-piece pump. It's just pretty much a big hose clamp, but I swapped out the eyelet or the wing nut for a 10 mil nut so I can just impact it down. But I'll hang this back up. There we go, hung back up. So my light hanging, I need to get it plugged back in, but I gotta put my surge protector up because I still want to replace that from the fire. So yeah, bench, all the tools. Over here I have a 4T75 or a 6T75 out of like an Acadia Traverse Enclave that we started doing the build on that. Got put on pause at the moment. LS4 build, that's just a core 4T65 trans. Got more stuff here, got my cart, got some extra goodies down here, a couple extra trans pans, etc. And here's where I keep some of my extra parts, which is extra 4L60 bushings, an extra, just some random extra parts, and an extra low reverse piston tool or clutch. Yeah, that thing. Compressor. Alright guys, so I hope you guys found this video useful. I wouldn't say entertaining because I'm pretty boring, but I hope you found it useful and got some information out of it that will help you build your own transmissions. Currently I don't pull them and rebuild them, put them back in. I've been doing bring me your trans, or if I have a core I'll build it and swap you, since I literally have that space to do all the actually heavy work in. That's a diesel Mercedes oil cooler that is starting in a week. Gotta order parts, and then once parts get here I'll get started on that one. So I've literally been doing bring me the trans, I'll build it, get it back to you, and get you on your way until I get a building with a lift that I can actually do start to finish. Bring it in not working, I'll give it back to you working. So that's all I have for today. Thanks for tuning in. Give this video a thumbs up, and we will see you next week.